What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Joystick Ayrton. Today we're talking about MSI. It was a dumpster fire last time with the Claw. Is anything going to change with the new ones coming shortly? Okay, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. We use that to try to improve all of these videos to the best we possibly can, so we appreciate all of you. With that being said, this is going to be a little bit of a talking head video. We have some different news coming out about the new MSI Claw devices that are going to actually start the launch of new handhelds in 2025. That release date is going to be the 15th of January, so these are going to be the first two fresh off of the shelves for everybody. Is it going to be enough? The original Claw, a giant dumpster fire. I personally think that they should have never come out. I can't imagine the company didn't lose money on that in some way, shape, or form. They're still insanely expensive for what they are compared to what you're comparing them to, with the Z1 Extreme blowing it out of the water in every facet of the way. Same with the just normal Z1. And even the Steam Deck, 90% of the time, is just a way better option, and it's cheaper. So the Claw was really, really bad. So let's go ahead, dive into this, talk about all of it, and see whether or not we're going to be hyped up for that launch coming here in, it's just a little over a month away. Okay, so we can't talk about the new ones without talking about the old ones and why they were so bad. There were two big reasons the MSI Claw was a utter disaster. Intel, terrible for gaming at the moment. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Meteor Lake was just a poor architecture, and with Intel really developing Arc from the ground up, drivers were bad. It's really designated towards newer games, so anything from like the early 2000s it struggles heavily on. Driver updates are poor, comparing that especially to AMD or like in the desktop form factor NVIDIA stuff. So Intel really has to make a gigantic jump here with Lunar Lake. It really has to be a massive improvement. Meteor Lake destroyed power consumption and gave you very little for it. You got performance that was a lot of times on par with the Steam Deck or less than that. There were two different models. So you had the 155H and you had the 135H. The prices between them didn't make a lot of sense. If you were going to get one, you might as well get the more expensive one because I believe it was a $100 difference. That brings me to the price. They're absurd, and they're still absurd. So let's talk about the handheld landscape and why it failed. The MSI Claw, the 135H model, is on sale right now for $529.99. That's actually not terrible, but you still should buy a Steam Deck at that price because it'll outperform it, better software, just better experience across the board. It's a good device. That had 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 SSD. Now the big dollar model was $699. There was only a $50 difference between the two models. That came with a slightly better CPU, but most of the time it actually ran almost as bad as the other one. It did come with a bigger hard drive, so you got a bigger hard drive, what should have been a more powerful CPU for a $50 difference. Those are still the prices that they launched at. Actually, I'm not quite sure if that is true. No, that is true. That was launch price. So $699.99 for the expensive version, $649.99 for the not expensive version, not expensive. And in every sense of the word, you should have gone with a Legion, a Ally, a Steam Deck. And we can just talk about that right now because you can get an ROG Ally for really cheap. You're looking at an Ally X, which is a great device for $800. The Z1 Extreme, not on sale currently, but I've seen it down into the mid 500s. It is awesome. You can get a 2 terabyte Ally X for $900. So Legion Go's were selling for $549.99, and then Steam Decks, depending on sale prices, anything under $600, you're getting an OLED with a terabyte. How could you possibly pick the much worse drivers, the much worse performance, the 35 minutes of battery life? It was bad. And that battery life wasn't just because of the battery size. A lot of it had to do with Meteor Lake just being bad, not efficient, destroying power, and getting very little performance for it. So that is the bad. The other bad is there's nothing on sale for the old Claws. They should be $350. They should try to move those units. I'm very curious to see like an earnings report. I don't think we're going to see one, or see how they did overseas, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. So that's the old one. That's the dumpster fire there in a nutshell. Now we're going to talk about what the 8 and the 7 AI Plus models need to be to convince us MSI is on the right track. Okay, so there are a lot of good things coming with the 8 AI Plus and the 7 AI Plus, and the naming isn't one of them. I would harp on MSI really hard for the naming scheme here if AMD wasn't doing the same thing with the CPUs that are coming from the Chinese handheld market with the Ryzen AI HX 370, blah, 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 blah. Get your naming scheme right. AI is just a marketing word. I can't stand that they're using it as every like 5 to 7 years there's a word that just gains traction in corporate offices. AI is what's hot right now and what's selling and what's driving up consumer prices and doing all this different market stuff. So they got to slap it onto everything. And it's irritating the living hell out of me. But the 8 Plus and the 7 Plus need to do a few things. Performance has to be on par with the Z2 devices, has to beat the Z1 Extreme. It just has to. You can't have a device as expensive as these two models are going to be that gets beat out by the Legion Go, the Ally X, or the Ally. And it better be light years ahead of the Claw and the Steam Deck when it comes to performance. There's a couple things you're going to lose out on altogether. Drivers are going to be iffy. Arc is still developing. I want it to succeed. I want the Claw to succeed. Competition in the market is great, but drivers have been an issue with Arc since it launched. Things have gotten better. Optimization, driver updates, they're on it. They're trying. It just takes time for those things to mature. When you're buying a device that's $700, $800, $900, you want the best one you can get. You don't want to be helping them funding getting it to where it needs to be. With that being said, the prices on these things scare the hell out of me. So you do get a bigger battery than the Ally X and the 8. I don't think both of them come with the big battery. They might both have the big one, but it's like 83 watts on the 8 AI Plus. That's awesome. That is fantastic. Lunar Lake is supposed to be far more efficient, so that should help that battery life as well. Hopefully that's on par with the Ally X because that's where it needs to be, but the performance needs to be better. We don't have benchmarks of these CPUs yet, but there were some laptops running on that exact same integrated graphics chip that's going to be in those handhelds. That was Cyberpunk 77 FPS, give or take, on medium settings. The question is, what was the resolution set at? I didn't see that in the article. With that being said, it has some promise. There are some options there. The screen is very nice. It's an 8-inch screen. I love the Legion Go screen. I personally think that the Legion Go screen is perfect. I don't want anything smaller than that. I think 8 might be that perfect place for a lot of people, so I'm interested in seeing how that goes. But it is a 120 hertz screen. I believe it is VRR. It's basically the exact same screen that the 7-inch version was on the previous Claw, which was just basically ripped right off of the ROG Ally. So there shouldn't be any issue there. So plus on the battery, plus on the screen. If the new chip actually does as well as it is looking like, with the improvement in efficiency, with the improvement in performance, we got ourselves a good device. The price is the problem. That is a terrible price. $900 for the 8 AI Plus. If it is even only 10 to 20% better than the Legion Go and you want a big screen, you should buy the Legion Go. 20% isn't enough when we're talking somewhere between 35 and 47 frames per second playing Call of Duty or Space Marine 2 or something of that nature on a handheld. It doesn't make sense. You save $450 getting a Legion Go or an Ally X, depending on sales and whatnot, than you do buying one of these. I think it's absolutely insane. At this point in time, you can't convince me that you're better off paying $899 for the 8 AI Plus than buying the ROG Ally X $899 version that has a 2 terabyte SSD. This does have 32 gigs of RAM compared to the 24 of the Ally, and it's a 1 terabyte compared to a 2. So we're already price-wise with the two devices. It doesn't really math up for me. The 8 gigs of RAM isn't going to make a gigantic difference from the Ally X. It's just not in performance-based things. Now, if you're docking this thing and using it that way, okay, we can talk then about benchmarks for that 8 extra gigs of RAM. And more is always nice. Not at that price for a unit that may or may not be great. We know the Ally X is great. We know that they've matured on their drivers. We know that Asus has put an insane amount of time into Armory Crate, and it is great. I do know MSI Center is getting better. How much better is it? I feel like we're one generation away from having a really good Claw. The question is whether or not this sells enough to get them to that next generation. I also think the 7-inch one, having 2 SKUs, it's only $100 cheaper. So here we go again with, you should just buy the bigger one because $100 for the bigger screen is probably better with the bigger battery in it if they are different batteries. But with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap everything up. Okay, so are we going to get to a MSI Claw that makes sense to buy? I think a lot of times people are looking for a deal, looking for something maybe on Marketplace, maybe you got a really good sale at Best Buy, things of that nature. The Claw being that expensive is a huge turnoff for me because I actually only spent like $50 more for this 8840U 2 terabyte WinMax 2. So $900 plus tax. The only benefit to buying the Claw over this is the fact that if there's an issue with it, I go straight back to Best Buy or I go through Amazon or whoever, you know, that situation was from. So that's a plus. I just think, let's say this thing comes out firing. Lunar Lake is awesome. The battery performance is good and it is better 20% than the Ally X. Then we're in a conversation where it's like, okay, this is a good device to buy. I think MSI is really banking on those people like me who are going to get this device, test it, benchmark it, put out reviews of it to try and draw people in, because I don't think anybody's buying the Claw right now. I think this device comes out, it's pretty good. People are like, wow, that's pretty good. Maybe it catches a sale and it takes off. Maybe you want that slightly bigger screen, but you don't like the Legion. It's too heavy. You don't care for the detachable controls. I get that. And you're like, okay, I want that form factor with a little bigger screen. I don't disagree. I think a 7-inch screen is too small for me. That's why I would get the 8 before I got the 7, and that's only a $100 difference. So it's really up to be determined on what's going to happen, but I think if this flops, if Lunar Lake is bad, if the updates don't come, if MSI Center has problems, and you're looking at it being more expensive or just as expensive as an Ally X, you missed another opportunity to get people in your circle. You need to be a little bit more budget friendly. Come on, look at what's happening on the AMD side of handhelds. And you need something that's going to draw people in. If you're not going to win at the high end, you need to be in the middle. It's kind of like what AMD is doing with GPUs right now. They've given up the fight against like the 4090 and 4080. They're just going to, next generation, really focus on that mid-tier performance with a good price point to get all of us over there. That's what MSI needs to do. More competition is always better for us. I hope it succeeds. I think it's going to actually be pretty good. I think it's going to be right on par with the Ally X. I just think at that point, with more mature drivers, with Z2 probably gaining back that difference, with a Legion Go 2 and another Ally in the future, I can't really see the masses turning to the Claw. But who knows? The naming sucks, the price sucks, but I am optimistic for this one. They both are launching January 15th of 2025. So these are going to be the first handhelds that come out for the new year. So I'm super excited about it. Not excited about the price. The 7 is $799 and the 8 is $899, and the naming scheme is terrible. But let me know what you guys think about the old MSI Claws, MSI, the new ones, this channel, the video, and everything in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.